Since the launch of Banjo Quest in the spring, I have been looking forward to making this video. This is my introduction to fretless clawhammer banjo. Welcome to Banjo Quest. When I first started playing fretless banjo, I was incredibly frustrated. I couldn't intonate correctly. I was really quiet. I could not get the instrument to produce beautiful sounds until I uncovered some fretless banjo secrets, and I want to share those secrets with you guys today. I really believe that anybody can play fretless banjo, and I get this question all the time. If I'm a beginner, can I or should I play fretless banjo? And my answer is always yes, 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 you should. You should find the nearest fretless banjo, you should pick one up, and you should learn how to play it. If you think about the history of the banjo, people have been playing fretless instruments and learning on fretless banjos for a really long time. There was a time in banjo history where there weren't frets. It wasn't an option. So there were plenty of people who were learning how to play the 5-string banjo, and they were dealing with fretless boards. So regardless of where you are in your banjo track, you can learn fretless banjo. And by learning a fretless banjo, not only will you be able to make beautiful fretless music with it, but you will improve your overall skill on the instrument. Even when you go back to your fretted instrument, you'll find that your skills have improved markedly. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do in this video is tell you the 3 reasons why I think the fretless banjo is so beautiful and interesting. And then I'm going to show you 2 common problems and how to solve them right off the bat. So here are my 3 reasons why fretless banjo is so beautiful. The first, of course, is slides on a fretless banjo sound the way they should. So if I slide, I think that liquidy smooth steel slide is so beautiful and one of the major reasons why you should get a fretless banjo. So the second reason why I think fretless banjos are so beautiful and unique is because you have access to microtones. Microtones are notes between notes. So for example, in A on the 3rd string, if I want to play slightly sharp to get a really bluesy sound, it's no problem on a fretless board. And the third reason why I love to play the fretless banjo is because when I play it, I feel wild and free. I don't have any frets that are constraining my sounds or tones. I can slide all over that board and I can get at those notes in between notes, and that all to me adds up to my ability to express myself more fully on a fretless instrument than I can on a fretted instrument. And this kind of goes into the mode of thought, and it's a nice segue into how to start thinking about a fretless banjo. When you're playing a fretless banjo, you really are playing something very different from a fretted banjo. And it's best to kind of treat it as an entirely different thing. It's very own beast. And that's how I'm going to advocate you guys learn how to play. So let's dive into the 2 difficulties of playing fretless banjo and how to overcome them. When I was starting to play fretless banjo, I made 2 really big mistakes. The first mistake I made was to imagine frets on the fretboard. And it's very easy to do this coming from a fretted instrument. You want those frets to be there because that's how you understand where to put your fingers. But there's something self-defeating in picking up a fretless instrument and trying to imagine or visualize frets on the instrument. On a fretted instrument, you're not actually putting your fingers on the frets. You're putting your fingers between the frets. So if you go to a fretless board and you try to imagine those frets there, it's not going to help you anyway because you'll be wanting to put your fingers between those frets because that's what your muscle memory is used to. So the second mistake I made when I first picked up the fretless banjo is that I expected the fretless banjo to conform to my ideas of what a banjo should sound like. I was so used to that fretted sound and those fretted tones, lots of sustain and that kind of thing. And it just isn't present on a fretless instrument. You're quieter, it's a duller sound, there isn't as much chording, so you've got these constraints that feel very burdensome at first, especially in comparison to a fretted instrument. But those eventually, once you learn how to work within those constraints give way. And for me at least, I feel my most free and expressive when those frets aren't there to be my guide. So let me show you practical ways to deal with these two issues today on Banjo Quest. We're going to start with the first one, and that is hand position and how to deal with the fact that you don't have frets anymore. So let's address this first issue, and that is learning how to get good intonation using positioning instead of your eyes. The first thing you need to do is use the fiddle grip, which is putting the neck of the banjo in the palm of your hand. Instead of the classical guitar grip where you're using the thumb, you're going to rest the palm of your hand right here, the crook between your thumb and your forefinger, on the back of the neck. You're going to still have a very light grip on the neck. I use about a 2-finger width guide for my first fret position. So if I curl my fingers over in that by choking up just about 2-finger widths up from the nut, my first finger is in the perfect first fret position. One thing to remember is we're not fretting in the gaps like you would on a fretted instrument. On a fretted instrument, you're not really fretting on the frets, you're fretting in the gaps between the frets. On a fretless instrument, your fingers are the frets, so we're using position to get that. So I am fretting about 2-finger widths off the nut. And what this does is it automatically puts the rest of my fingers in perfect fretting position for frets 2 and 3. And I'll show you. So my middle finger now is, without moving my hand, my middle finger now is on the 2nd fret position. So my first and my 2nd finger is taken care of, and magically, so is my 3rd. So I am making some very small adjustments as I play. I'm using my ears to be my guide. When it sounds right, it is right, and it's really no more complicated than that. But naturally gripping the fingerboard like this with a little bit of space in between your fingers automatically puts your fingers on the right frets, as it were. So all of this advice is really particularly relevant towards first position. We're going to talk about other positions on the neck later on, and I'm going to show you how to get those with different references on the neck. But today we're just talking about first position and frets 1, 2, and 3. If you rely on your initial positioning 2 finger lengths away from the nut and then use your natural grip to get those other frets with some little adjustment in between using your ears, you're going to find it a much easier thing to do than if you're sitting there trying to visualize where the frets would be on the neck. So the second issue that I had with the instrument all revolves around setting expectations. You can't expect a fretless banjo to sound and behave like a fretted one, so just realize that going in. You're going to have less sustain, less volume, less sparkle, and to account for those constraints, you have to use different techniques. One of the major techniques that I use is I'm trying to create constant motion. And I hear this a lot in Tommy Jarrell's playing and Fred Cockrum's playing, where they are addressing the constraints of the fretless banjo by creating a certain density of notes and to create the sense of constant motion, so there's the illusion of ringing out. So let me show you that now. If you look back to the A part of Breaking Up Christmas, by adding some slides to that, I can create the sense that those notes are lasting a little bit longer because of the movement within those notes. So instead of that note dying on the vine, I'm adding that slide, and it creates the sense of motion, and it disguises the fact that that note is just dying. The other technique I'm using a ton when I'm playing fretless banjo to create the sense of ringing is an alternate string pull-off. I'm constantly making sure these strings are ringing. So if I'm not playing melody notes, I'm ringing these open strings in this bumpadiddy pattern. And that helps create the illusion of lots of sustain. I'm just getting other strings ringing out to cover over the fact that my playing doesn't have a ton of sustain when I'm playing this instrument. So I hope this helps demystify the fretless instrument a little bit. Remember, this is just my introductory video. I wanted to encourage you guys who don't have fretless banjos to dig one up, find one, beg, borrow, or steal one. Don't steal one, that wouldn't be nice. And for those of you who have fretless instruments that are just sitting in cases, or for those of you who got them over the holiday season, now's your chance to take them out of your case and really learn how to play them right. So I hope you stick with me through this fretless exploration, and there will be a ton more content on Patreon. So if you want the full Banjo Quest experience, hop on over to Patreon. We'll be going in depth there with added videos every week, and some of them are even longer than the videos that I'm releasing to the public, so it really is a great value. So I hope to see you over there, and I will see you next Friday here on Banjo Quest.